We've learned up to now in a book which is called Likuti Torah, which was written by the first Rebbe of Chabad, or more exactly, these were speeches that were given by the first Rebbe of Chabad and written down by his pupils, his sons, and it explains the ideas that are mentioned in the book the Tanya, which the book the Tanya is just explaining the ideas that were brought by the Baal Shem Tov. What's all this important for? Because the purpose of the world can only be fulfilled. First of all, there is a purpose to the world, and this purpose of the world can only be fulfilled by the Jewish people doing the Torah. And there's tremendous confusion about this in two directions. The confusion, one is that there is no purpose to the world, and the other is that there is a purpose to the world, but it's to get out of the world. And that's all the other religions that are in the world. So there's basically two big mistakes, and both of them are based on the same idea: to lead an easy life, or to be a leader. I'll get the most benefit. Comes along Judaism. Judaism says no, that's not the point. The point of life is not to go to heaven. The point of life is not to receive as much as you can, pleasure, pain, whatever, all these power, Freud and Adler and all these guys. No, that's not the point of life. Those are facts of life, but it's certainly not the point, the goal of life. The goal of life is to reveal the Creator here. And what does it mean to reveal the Creator here in this world? The world is being created every moment, brand new from nothing. We've talked about this thousands of times. But when you feel that the world is being created, so it makes the world more meaningful. You realize that the world is tremendously important to God, and that every instant is very important. And the goal of the whole business is going to be what's called the raising of the dead, when even all the people that died will come back to be in this world. That's how important this world is. So not too many people really embody this point. Intellectually, you can understand it, but to actually embody it is much more it's a different thing, because it's against nature, and people don't like to go against their nature. People are willing to go against their nature for some sort of a benefit, of a profit, right? People in sports are willing to spend hours, days, weeks, months practicing and working out and sweating and grimacing and in pain and going over their limits and etc. in order just to win. People in business are willing to make tremendous investments and even sacrifices and stay up nights and days and make connections in order to have money. And people that get pleasure, who knows what they're willing to do, right? Pleasure, the whole of the drug industry and with the mafias and the things like this, the things that the ends that they're willing to go to in order to bring people pleasure and in order to. So it's true, it's not easy to be in the world, but the goal is the wrong goal. People are working for a impermanent goal, even if your goal is to go to heaven. It's not the real truth. So what's the point? The point of life is to be in the world, but to improve the world. And if you can't improve the world, at least improve yourself, which you're also part of the world. So you have to do both together. What does it mean improve? What's the way to improve? So that's what the Torah is given for. The Torah is given to you in the world to tell you what it means to improve the world, how it is possible to reveal the importance of this world that the Creator has put into this world, to reveal the Creator. Okay, in order to do this, you have to change your own nature a little bit. Just like in, you want to win in sports or you want to make money or something like that. But here you're doing it for the Creator. You're not doing it for any personal gain. In fact, that's the whole point. That's the whole point, is not to do things for personal gain, but to do for the sake of the Creator. And the Creator is creating you. He's giving you everything for free. So technically you owe him everything anyway. But God is not creating us in order to torture us. God is not far away, and we're not all cursed because Adam ate from the tree and all these things. It's not so. Those are lies that are made up by people that just didn't know the truth. Right? The truth is that God loves everybody, and that God is creating everybody from love. But we have big challenges. We have to fix up the world. Okay, So says the Rebbe, there's really two types of people that really get this point. And here the Rebbe is talking about the Tzadikim. Tzadikim are people that really get and embody this whole feeling of God. And so just like you can write a book about, geniuses in music and, and you're not yourself a genius in music, or, fantastic composers, and you yourself are not a composer. But you can understand what a composer is. So the same thing we're writing here about tzaddikim. But the difference is that every Jew, especially, is potentially a tzaddik. And what is a tzaddik? A tzaddik is a person who feels the oneness of God in everything, feels that every second is a miracle, and feels that he's in this world, she is in this world in order to make changes. Because the world covers over the truth. That's the way God made it. But the truth is there, and the truth is very good, and every human being is very good, but we have to reveal it. Okay, there's two types of tzaddikim. There's one type of tzaddikim that they're like fish, another type of tzaddikim that they're like an ox. This is hinted at in works of Kabbalah and etc., but also and even in the book of Psalms. There's Leviathan, a big fish, and other places it talks about Shor Habar, the refined ox. And these are two types of tzaddikim. There's tzaddikim, which are very, very few, maybe one in every generation, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they are like fish. What does it mean, fish? That only what you see of them is only 1% of what they really are. In other words, they are really attached to the truth. They're really attached to the Creator. Excuse me, mosquito. They're attached, and they feel, and they're by the Creator all the time. And that's the whole purpose of every second of their life, is just to refine the world and to refine the upper worlds and he brings an example that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, for instance, that he was in a cave. He had to hide away from his enemies. The Romans wanted to kill him, so he hid away in this cave for 13 years. And all that time, he did all of the commandments spiritually. Spiritually, he ate matzah spiritually. He couldn't go out of the cave. If he went out, they would kill him. The cave, it's in Miron. It's up in the upper part of Israel. So he did all the commandments, sitting in a sukkah and everything he did, but he did it spiritually. What are the commandments? The commandments are connections of this world to the Creator and the Creator to this world. That's what the commandments are. And so he did. So that's an example that everything he did was spiritual, was in the upper world, spiritual. Don't think that means that the commandments are spiritual. That's not so. The commandments are physical. But if you're a person like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and you are in a situation where you cannot do the commandments, as then you can fulfill the commandments like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Another person, right? Me and you, a normal Jew, if we're in situations where we can't do the commandments, so we're exempt from the commandments, but we don't accomplish what the commandments are supposed to do. Like, for instance, people are brought up and they don't know that they're Jewish, so they never did any commandments. So those people, it could be that they'll have to go into another reincarnation. There's what's called Gilgul Neshamos, whatever it is. But nevertheless, that's not the way it's supposed to be. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the way it was supposed to be. He was in this cave, and he actually accomplished all of the unifications and all of the changes that were supposed to be made by the commandments. He did, but he did it spiritually, because he's like one of these fish. And fish, and the tzaddik like that, they have what's called Mesirut Nefesh. Mesirut Nefesh means giving over your soul. Giving. 1 second, 1 minute. 1 minute, something over here is changing. All right, I hope this is all right. Is it all right? No. There we go, good. Having these technical problems over here. Come on. There you go. All right, let's go. So it says here, make this a little bit bigger, a little larger, little. Okay, so he said, those tzaddikim, they join what's called yesh tu ayin. They join this world which seems to be separate from God to ayin, which seems to be, God seems to be nothing. And in fact, God is nothing. He's not a thing. So they join the creation to the creator. How? In a way of mesirut nefesh, self-sacrifice. Now, self-sacrifice does not mean that you jump off of a building or that you're that you're burnt up or something, even though a lot of Jews were. When they say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, it's a commandment for the Jewish people to say this sentence. Some people say the whole paragraph of, listen, Jews, understand, Jews, God is our God, God is one. And when they say God is one, so they really realize it and they really feel it. Al Yedei by means of this, Mamshichim, they draw it down, Lios Livia, Yalaveh, Ishi Elai. My husband will accompany me. That's what Leah said when she was given, when she gave birth to her third son, which was Levi. So then my husband will accompany me. That's the idea. That's Leviathan. That's this big fish, Leviathan, from the language of to accompany. So God accompanies them wherever they go. Which you can ask a question, how can that be? But the answer is that God accompanies everybody. God is creating everyone, and God is accompanying everyone, but it's not in a revealed way at all. Not in a revealed way at all. It's like a person having about $1 billion in the bank, but he doesn't remember which bank it is, and he hasn't got any identity, and he doesn't know what it is, but he's got it. It's there, right? He hasn't got any access to it, doesn't know what city it's in, but it's there, 100%. He's got the, and so it is. God is accompanying everyone in the world, but nobody knows it's there. We don't know what God is or what it means. They think God is a person, or God is a father of a person, or God is some big existence sitting up in the sky, or that he's a non-existence sitting up in the sky, whatever it is. Begam also, Yesh Lomar, we can say Perish Avoda Ruchnit of the Neshama. This is the okay. Now, what does this got to do with us? What's this got to do with us? So, what the answer is? What does it got to do with us? That this is talking about the truth, about what really is, about what really is. It's like blind people talking about, the Rembrandt's paintings. What does it got to do with them? I mean, they're blind. They can't. There's this. Oh, I remember how we did it with the shadowing, with this. They don't even know what it is. They read it in a book. They can read it in Braille. The way that he used shadowing is different from how, somebody else, Borgels or somebody else, he used how he shadowed his pictures and how he does this. They're blind. They don't know what they're talking about. The same thing with us. We have no conception what it means, God, but we do know that he's creating us and he's creating the world. And there's these things called angels that we read about in Isaiah, and he's creating them also. So then what word is this? So this becomes very difficult to understand. And this God is creating everything. He cares about us. Now the tzaddikim, they feel this, and they are examples to the world that it is possible to embody this. Even more, that's the reason man was created, was in order to embody this certainty. And just as it is nowadays, it's a big miracle if people follow their conscience, right? The guy is who knows, somebody in mafia, and before he kills somebody, thinks, I shouldn't be doing this. This is a child, or this is, somebody's mother or something like that. All of a sudden, his conscience, everybody says, what are you doing? Why don't you pull the trigger? I don't understand. My conscience, what is this conscience? Can you show it to me? But I don't know. It's just, and that your conscience is going to rule over your body. You stand to make $1 million from this job, right? Just pull the trigger. I say, I can't, my conscience will let me. Your conscience somehow are more real than your profits and your this, that. Well, everyone is going to feel this like 1,000,000 times their conscience, what is right and what is wrong. And people will feel that what is right is good, even though you're going to lose everything because of it. And that's what's called the service, spiritual service of the soul, Shebechinas Leviathan, that these people feel God, the source of conscience, they feel it all the time. And this is what eventually every human being to a certain degree will do. Like it says in the Shulchan Aruch, that before you pray every morning, you're supposed to remove all connection to the world. We talked about this yesterday. Something like prophecy, like it's explained in another place by the Arizal, by Yitzchak Luria, that he said that if he went to sleep, he saw something that would take him 80 years to explain. So in other words, that's what I'm saying, that these people were in this world. They revealed the tip of the iceberg, what godliness is. It says, but sometimes they got revelations of godliness that they understood everything, but to reveal it in this physical world, there aren't terms to reveal it here. It would take them 80 years to explain even a minute of what they saw. Behold, Omer is all the rabbi said, since the Holy Temple was destroyed, there's no happiness in the world. That God does not, there's no real happiness in the world, and God also is not happy. What does God do in the last quarter of the day? When we said that he plays with the Leviathan, with these Tzadikim, it says, what does he do? He teaches children that learn Torah. But Leos, because this world is physical, therefore tzaddikim, these tzaddikim, that their whole thing is in the physical world, they have to do physical commandments, and that's why the rabbis say that there's one pillar that this world is supported by, and that's called tzaddik, she'alav olam omed, that upon him the whole world stands. So also what it is in the dry land, there is also in the sea. So there's these tzaddikim, like fish we just said, and they're in the sea. But the Gemara Talmud tells us that everything that God made in the sea, he put also in the dry land. Because really, they have to have habaha, you have to both types of tzaddikim. One type of tzaddikim, up to now we've only discussed with the fish, and the other ones were the ox. The ox, these are people who, they feel godliness, but not to the same degree as these fish. And their main thing is action, doing the commandments, physically learning the Torah. Behold, the going of the tzaddikim, they're called nune yoma. They're called like fish. This is very amazing. Like we can say before, like we said, the fish, sheshatim beyond, that they go in the sea. Kachim shatim ubetisa achas, and one, the shoot, whatever it is, one movement, they go lamaila high and high, or much higher and greater than the tzaddikim that they work in the physical world. So there are people big. I mean, I don't want to take an example. So I don't know how to judge people properly in any way. I mean, I know what's written over here, but this idea of a tzaddik, like it says, like I told you the story that the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, said that the Rebbe before him, the second Rebbe of Chabad, said he was one of the hidden tzaddikim. And they said, what do you mean? Everybody knew he was a tzaddik. He said, what we knew of him is only like the tip of an iceberg. Is woe to us and woe to the world if what we saw of him, that's all that he was. Those are tzaddikim that they're like fish. They go in the upper world, they can change. I told you several stories about the Rebbe. Which is not the case. It's like I'm sorry. Like for instance, the fish which are in the sea, they can reach very, very high, etc. This is much more than the tzaddikim that they work in the physical world. Simcha, their happiness is in physical things. Basar, Shakol, Lamata, Bandregas, everything is very, very low. So there are people like this. I mean, I'm afraid to use names, but I mean, I just, could be. Let's just take an example of a person like Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Now, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was a big genius, and he was a very pure person, a very holy person, a very good person. But he wasn't known for doing miracles. It could be that he did, because I mean, first of all, every Jew is the son of God, so every Jew can do miracles, and eventually everyone in the world will be able to do miracles. But his main thing was physical, in the physical world, to make laws. And Lubavitcher Rebbe used to send people to him that he was an expert in law, Jewish law. He could make Jewish law. Now, let's say that he was an example. Like I say, what we see of them is only the tip of the iceberg. So therefore, what I'm saying is, you have to take with a million grains of salt, and it could be totally wrong. He was like one of the fish, but nevertheless, let's say a person like that he's not known at all for his spiritual achievements. Right? He's not known at all for his explanations in Kabbalah, and even though I'm sure that he learned Kabbalah, but that's not what he's known for. Right? That's like the tzadikim, that their whole thing is the physical world. Masha'enkim, which is not the case, those tzadikim that they're like fish, like for instance, the Baba Sali, for instance, that he was quiet all the time. You didn't really say very much. Sheshat mikatzei olam, that go from one end of the world to the other. Kach hilucham baruch, so it is in their spiritual work with tisach, as they can go for spiritual worlds, flip around, heal people at the other end of the world. They can reach very, very high. And all this is not, they don't do it in an excited way, and in an enthusiastic way, and in a revealed way, like the tzadikim that are like, we said, like an ox. That they're physically happy with meat and wine nowadays. In other words, they take the physical things in the world and they use them to serve God with, which that's what really everybody can do. But these people are tzadikim, they really do with a pure, true intention. So again, in one way, that's really the goal of Judaism, are these tzadikim that are like the shor habor, like the ox, like the physical world, because the purpose of Judaism is to show how precious this physical world is. Physical world. And these tzaddikim that are like fish, they're up in the spiritual worlds. These fish, the tzaddikim that are like fish, is everything they do is like, how do you say, simply, obviously, cold, ubenachat, easy, automatically almost. With one little movement, they can reach to the highest of highs. And it's impossible to explain this in speech how it is. Therefore, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he didn't have to do the commandments when he was in the cave. Kama mitzvahs ma'asos, like we said, Ella, what a call, everything he did was spiritual. He accomplished the spiritual outcome of the commandments. He didn't do it physically, he did it spiritually, which is higher than this level of being happy with meat and wine. So here we have, it's like what do they call it, a paradox. The highest levels of godliness can only be revealed by the commandments. Only by the commandments. That's the only way they come in. But there are certain people like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that they can achieve even higher levels of unity, and not by means of the commandments. They're like these fish. So again, let's keep going back and back to the original point. The original point is, the point of Judaism is to reveal God in this world, to reveal that this world is a creation, and that God is intimately involved and interested in every detail of this creation. And that in no way makes God, minimizes God, or shows that God is like a human being or something. It shows that God is more infinite than we thought. He's not limited to being far away from the world, like all the other religions in the world say. So, so our goal is it's like a human being. You want to reveal a human being health. A person that's sick, you want to reveal in him health. What is health? What does it mean, health? You fix up the body, and that's health. That's health. You fix up the body so that the soul can function in the body. But what is the soul? The soul is health. You ever see a soul? All these doctors, millions of doctors, they're all working in order to make people healthy, right? So that the soul should enliven the body. Not one of them has any idea what the soul is. No one knows it. It's above understanding. Right? But nevertheless, that's their goal, is to make the world healthy. The same thing is the point of Judaism, is to make the world healthy, to reveal the soul of the world, God in the world. so that the world is a healthy, functioning, alive place. People stop thinking about going to heaven all the time, even though there is such a thing as heaven, but it's a stop-off place. It's impossible to explain this. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he didn't do all these commandments when he was in the. Why? Because paradoxically, even though the commandments are the only way to reveal godliness in the world, but there's once in a while, as a person like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he can do the same thing spiritually and reveal godliness in the world. Reveal godliness in the world, but by means of his spiritual. That's why 500,000 people visit his grave every year on the day that he passed away. But this is the whole idea of San Perav. That's the whole idea of the fins of Leviathan. That in them who shot, that in these fins he swims, meaning from one end of the spiritual worlds to the other. And therefore, Olam, the whole world is standing on this Leviathan, on these tzadikim that are like fish. Shamakif kol olam, because they are found in every aspect of creation and making it godly, revealing the Creator in every aspect of the creation. And the spiritual worlds, they're only just creation, just like the physical world is. Kanod, like it's known in the words of the rabbis, in the future, Leviathan yasel milchama now. In the future, it says that the Leviathan is going to make a war with this ox, with this, what is it, a pure ox, clean ox. And he'll slaughter it with his fins. So what do we say? These tzadikim, that they deal with the physical world, they're not as high as these tzaddikim that are like the fish. They reach higher, incredibly higher revelations of what God is in this world. They reach, but they're very few. It says in the future that these tzaddikim, that they are like fish, that they reach these higher levels, they'll elevate the entire world, as represented by these ox tzaddikim, these tzaddikim that deal with the world. So these other tzaddikim will elevate them with what? With their fins. Kihine avodas tzaddikim, because these tzaddikim that are these righteous Jews that are in the level of what's called shorabar, of the pure ox, penei shur, like it says that the face of the ox, which was on the left, that was in the vision that Isaiah saw and Ezekiel saw, the face of the ox. Elisha hu bar, it is pure, v'zach, and refined. Kihine kam avodas, their service in doing the commandments, kamo v'simcha b'chagecha, like having joy in the holidays and Yom Tov. Ve'ein simcha, there's no joy except in meat and wine, and their whole work is the physical world. Eino kapeshuto, it's not simple that they eat meat of the ox in order, what they're eating is in order to fill their stomach. It's not that they eat a big meal and that because they're Jews that do Torah and the commandments, so therefore they elevate it. No, God forbid. That they're eating meat, the meal is to them like putting on tefillin. They're using the physical world exactly how God would. There's not one iota of selfishness, of self-pleasure involved. It's happiness to do the commandment of eating meat. It says that's really essentially what Adam was. Why it was that Adam, in the beginning of creation, he ate from the tree and they saw he was naked and he covered himself up. So because the sexual union between man and his wife, Adam, and Chava and his wife, it was a commandment. It was a commandment, and it was like any other commandment. Right? It was like any other commandment. It was like putting on tefillin or whatever. As soon as he ate from the tree, he started feeling himself. So he became aware of the pleasure, his own physical pleasure. That became the main thing, or it became a main issue. In other words, he became selfish. Even a little tiny bit of selfish, but that wrecks the whole thing up. Thinks about himself. Right? It's like a piano player or whatever he's playing. All of a sudden, he thinks about his mother in the thinks about his wife or his job or anything else. Right? He's playing even for 1 second. That wrecks the whole thing up. All of a sudden, he stops playing. Adam was supposed to be devoted totally to the Creator and to make the world harmonious. And as soon as he got a little bit selfish, then that wrecked everything up. Says that's the idea of these tzaddikim, that they eat meat and they drink wine or whatever, but they do it like Adam was supposed to have had relations with his wife before he ate from the tree. It was only to do what God wants. It's not to fulfill their own pleasures, God forbid. Yashispo, and to be happy in it. Ella, but in the meat, whatever. Ella bechinas halah, they elevate everything. Like Shalmi Simcha, like they made in the Holy Temple, they would bring what's called a peace shalom offering, shlomim, where the owners would eat it. It would be holy meat, like in the Korban Pesach, where it would be holy meat. They would eat it only to do a commandment. There was time in the Holy Temple, they had these shlomim that would, there was a pleasing smell to God, it says. The way they sacrificed, the way they ate it, they only did it for the sake of the Creator. And the Creator is creating animals. It's not the Creator is just waiting up there in heaven for all the holy people. Creator is creating animals, he's creating bugs, and he's creating the germs. God's creating everything. And if we can use these things in order to serve God, I don't know how you can use germs, but use serving God, and then that's the whole purpose of the world. Al Derech says also simple babasar Yom Tov. Also, these tzadikim like that are like oxes, like the shore, they have joy in Yom Tov, like it says v'yismechu b'cha, that we're happy in God on the holidays. B'cha daika. It's just a request. May we be happy with you again, because the Holy Temple was destroyed, so we can't use the physical world purely to serve God like we did back then. And these tzaddikim that do use the physical world to serve God, that's called shor habar. That's called the refined ox. Mileshin bar levav, like it is a pure heart. Basar zach ubar, it's pure, it's refined, it's nothing, no selfishness in it. And these tzaddikim that are like, not like the fish, but like the ox, they get joy in God by doing these physical things, even by eating this meat. Hanoled mizeh, which comes from this, korishvei eish, like flaming fire, bislavos kuli. Okay, so that's, now the Rebbe is talking about these other type of tzaddikim that they're called like the ox, and that they use the physical world in order to serve God, and that they do it in the most, how do you say, also self-sacrificing way to God. And so that's also wonderful. Ella, but sha'afal became nevertheless, miltra zutrahi, it's very, very small, their service of God and the revelation of God that they make, these tzaddikim that are like, that use the physical world, that are called the ox, their revelation of God is very small. Zutra said it's very small. Lagabi hiluch, regarding the accomplishments and the movements of the tzaddikim, which are called fish. The fishabom medaber gashma, because these tzaddikim, like oxes, it says that the pure ox, is they're still connected with the physical world. Gvul, it's limited, which is not the case the going of these tzaddikim that are like fish. That with one movement, and calmly, they can reach much, much higher than any other level that they can. Now you have to remember that, okay, you say, but they're not using the physical world, and the whole thing is using the physical world. They are using the physical world. Themselves, people are creations. Our souls are creations. In some ways, moving that is much more difficult than moving a piece of meat and eating it properly. True, that's in eating a piece of meat, you get pleasure from it and everything like that. And so there's this temptation to think about yourself and not what God wants. But that's nothing compared to with the way they use themselves, these tzaddikim that are like fish. They use themselves with what do you say, self-sacrifice, mesirat nefesh. They give their whole being over to God. Therefore, it says in the future, these tzaddikim that are like fish, they will elevate even these tzaddikim that are like the ox. Yishchot, that's what it means, yishchot, that they will slaughter it. It doesn't mean they will slaughter it. Ya'aleh, they will elevate it, al yedei tisa shalem, by means of their movement, with their sempirov, with their fins. Shebehem, al yodama, by means of this will raise them up. Shiu lamayla mikocham, above their normal power. Shala tzadikim, it says the Moshiach is going to come and make the tzadikim do tshuva. Remember that? It says in the Zohar, it says that the Mashiach is going to come and make the tzadikim do tshuva. How can it be tzadikim? They don't have to do tshuva. So tshuva means to come closer to God, means to return to your source. And these tzadikim, and they are tzadikim, that they're pure, totally pure. It's a shura bor, pure ox. They don't do anything for themselves. They're all excited about God and they do what God, but still they're not in the same level as these tzaddikim that really, really feel God. That's like the fish. It says in the future, these tzaddikim that are like the fish will elevate everyone. They'll inspire and elevate everyone. Something like what God did in Mount Sinai, right? God at Mount Sinai, he elevated everyone. All of a sudden, the Jewish people, 50 days before, they were all slaves in Egypt, and they were thinking about gathering straw. And now 50 days later, all of a sudden, they're in front of Mount Sinai, and they're thinking about only serving God. I am God that took you out of Egypt. Shouldn't have any other gods. Right? The tremendous jump. But nevertheless, that's what it was done. True, the Jews couldn't accept this, even though they had done counting the Omer and preparing themselves, but still it was too much. But now in our generation, it's not going to be too much. So it says in the future, these tzaddikim, that they are like fish, which that's going to be like the level of the Moshiach, is he's going to elevate all of the others, that they can have this revelation and feeling of the Creator in the creation every instant. Says the Rebbe, but don't disqualify these tzaddikim that are like an ox, that you have to change them, that they're just temporary. No. The M is really Gam Shura Bar, also this level of the tzaddikim, that their whole work is purely in this world. It says they also give an elevation to the fish. What do we say? That there's a war between the tzaddikim. A war means who's going to elevate who. It's not who's going to defeat the other one. Here we're talking about shchita, means to elevate. So it says that the tzaddikim that are like fish, they elevate the other tzaddikim, they deal with the physical world, they elevate them. It said, but you have to remember that the tzaddikim that deal with the world, they also, it says, they elevate, it says, gore the fish with their horns. They elevate them also. Why? Because in one way, the service of these tzaddikim that are like an ox, that deal only with the physical world, even though that is dealing with physical, it's something, because that's the way it should be according to the Torah. The Torah demands that we should be in this world. The Torah demands that we should do commandments in this physical world. That's the whole point of the Torah. There's no joy except in meat and wine. These tzaddikim, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's good that there's one or two of them and they'll elevate everybody, but they won't elevate all the world, that they'll stop doing Torah and the commandments, that they'll stop dealing with the world. No, they'll just add an additional appreciation of God and appreciation of the Torah and the commandments to everyone. But the fact that you have to deal with the world, that's what the Torah says. And because of this, it says, Ya'le'u oto, because of this, the tzaddikim, that they are like oxes, they will elevate the ones that are like fish. That God is going to see in the future for the tzaddikim, their whole service in this physical world, that both of them, like one, are good. Baha in this aspect, Adif is better. Ubaha high Adif, and this one is better. In other words, the tzaddikim that are like fish, their big thing is they can go through all the spiritual worlds and accomplish all of these spiritual unifications in an instant. Heal people and solve problems. You saw that by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Right? People were coming, very, very common. People would come in and say, my son is making an operation, and here's the x-rays, and the Rebbe would say, tell the doctors not to operate, it's going to be okay. And he went back, and the doctors made a check, and there was no growth. There was no cancer. I know people that the Rebbe cured them from blindness, blind people. All of a sudden they got better, even just from $1 of the Rebbe. There's stories, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories. There was one fellow that he was dead. The Rebbe brought him back from the dead. Had an automobile accident. And he was dead. The Rebbe said, he's not totally dead. You should put his head in a cooler and it'll make him, and it did, and it worked. And he had a yeshiva. I don't know where he is now. Hine Leviathan. So it says the Leviathan, he will slaughter the ox. Even though that nowadays slaughtering cannot be good with a serrated thing, with like and a fin is goes up and down, right? Is machmas hafsaka, because it stops. Why can't you slaughter with a saw? Because it says that if there's a little nick, so you stop 1 second or you pull whatever. But it has to be, the slaughtering of the ox has to be with fins. Why? Because this idea of shchita, of slaughtering, it doesn't mean to slaughter, it means to elevate. Listen, ideally, that's the way it's supposed to be now. You take a cow, and the cow, what does a cow do? It acts like a cow. It acts like a cow, and it lives purely for itself. That's the way God created it. It eats what they used to have over a cow, a milk farm. There used to be a fellow over at Rivkin, he used to have a milk farm. He used to have about 30 cows, and he would ring a bell, and they would all go through this narrow opening, and they would go up to and they would stand in a line. He put them in a line, and he would feed them. While he was feeding them, he would milk them. While he was feeding them, he would milk them. So they would go through one time he said to me, look at the oxen, these cows, they go through. He says, not one, is there no time one cow says to the other one, after you, please. Right? They're all thinking about themselves. They just want to get to their food, and they're not thinking about the other one. The cow is purely selfish. That's why God created it. When you slaughter a cow and you do it properly, and now it's possible to eat, now you can use that cow and the cow becomes a human being. The cow becomes you. And that cow, the energy of the cow, that becomes part of your life. Right? That's what Judaism says, to elevate the world. Of course, you have to use it properly. If you use it improperly, then you're worse than the cow. At least a cow acts like a cow. If a human being acts like a cow, then that's worse than a cow. But a cow is doing what God told him to do. So that's what it means. In the future, shchita means to elevate. In shchita, this means eliyat, elevating the ox. The maila. In other words, elevating the people in this world that serve God, but from a lower level of consciousness. The idea of the tzadikim, these big tzadikim, like the fish, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he's able to elevate everyone. Right? Elevate everyone. Well, he won't be able to do it. You can't do it now. Maybe a little bit here, a little bit there. But in the future, it'll be an elevation for all the Jewish people, like God wanted to do in Mount Sinai. So this is what the problem in Mount Sinai was. It was done at one time. In the future, the Leviathan, these tzadikim that are like fish, they will elevate the tzadikim that are like ox, that are dealing with the physical world. They'll do it little by little. And therefore, it has to be a hefsek b'neim. Therefore, it has to be like a fin, which a fin goes up and down, little by little. It can't be all the elevation can be at once. Like it's known, Kama Yeluchos, there's a lot of chambers in the spiritual worlds. There's what's called the chamber of merit, chamber of will, spiritual levels. And it's impossible that all of the elevations can be at one time. That was the mistake that Moses thought that it would work at Mount Sinai. It wasn't a mistake, but and it didn't. It was too much. The Jewish people couldn't take it. But God wanted it to be that way. He wanted the Jewish people to be elevated, that all of them should be at the same level as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would be. But so therefore there has to be a delay between one level and the next. Therefore, Yatir, God in the future will permit this slaughtering with a fin, with fins. So we already said that it won't actually be this Leviathan. I mean, we had the question, once again, you can't slaughter an animal with another animal. That doesn't make any difference what you do. The slaughtering has to be done by a Jew. Has to do the slaughtering. Even a non-Jew that slaughters an animal ritually does all the laws. It's not good. It's not, you can't eat. So a fish for sure is not good. So it says here the fish are talking about these tzadikim. and these tremendous tzadikim like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they will elevate. That's what it means slaughtering, but they'll do it little by little. That's what it means. They'll do it with their fins. And therefore, God said that it's going to be okay. Even a physical way, it'll be okay. And they should, because there's going to be actually a physical fish, and there's also going to be. So the Shura born also will elevate the Leviathan also by means of stabbing it also. So in other words, all of these levels will be revealed. The value of the spiritual worlds, the how do you say, the closeness of the spiritual worlds, and the benefit of the physical world, that we can use it only by physical world can we elevate and accomplish what God wanted when he created the world, to reveal this world. So we'll see the greatness of the fish and the greatness of the ox, and both of them will elevate one the other, and that's what it means, this idea of slaughtering, and why it has to be done gradually, and all the questions are answered. And now we'll learn the Sikh of the Rebbe. One minute. Gotta stop this here.
Bar Malchus will resume.